Okay, so some very troubling news coming out of the National League is that Morecambe have been suspended. They're suspended till August the 20th. They've been barred from entering the National League Cup, which is the non-league version of the League Cup, and they've got a transfer embargo in place. Now, I don't blame the National League for enforcing their rules in regards to club finances and deadlines, because obviously the club's been up for sale for 3 years, and the takeover process has become a mess. And we do need to ask questions of the EFL again, because this whole process started when they were a Football League club. But at the moment, their three opening fixtures of the season against Boston United away, Brackley Town at home, and Scunthorpe United away are going to have to be rearranged depending on if this suspension from the National League gets extended or lifted. There could be more fixtures that need to be played at some point. But let's really go into the nuts and bolts of this. So the club's been up for sale since 2022. Jason Whittingham is the current owner. He no longer wants to run the club, own the club, and that's his prerogative. Whether we like how he's run the club or not, I don't know enough on Morecambe's ownership to really pass judgment on that. But it has led to some off-field uncertainty for a while. They were a Football League club when he put the club up for sale. They've had two relegations since the club's been up for sale. They got relegated from the Football League at the end of last season. So there has been some uncertainty financially with the club for some time, even predating the club being put up for sale. Now, this is where things get really weird. So there's a business consortium called the Punjab Warriors, a group of businessmen, friends from London, who've basically been in the process of buying the club for the last year. They've missed deadlines for filing paperwork with the National League. Now, obviously, they started the process when the club was a Football League club. And of course, relegation, that process and obviously carries on, but now the National League, you've got to deal with them instead. And they're saying the deal's over the line, we've agreed the deal, we basically own the club, we just got to submit the paperwork. They've missed the deadlines, and this is where ownership and financial backing and are you financially able to run the club, this is where the National League, under their rules, have decided to suspend Morecambe. Whether that's right or wrong, the National League are following their rules. You know, we can debate whether that's the right way to go about it and transfer embargoes and suspending clubs and all that. But out of nowhere, and this is what I find really weird, if the Punjab Warriors have bought the club, is what they're saying, why has a guy called Johnny Cato come out of nowhere saying he's going to buy the club if this deal's over the line? And this is where there's a lot of uncertainty in what's going on, because questions need to be asked about Jason Whittingham, because he also needs to submit paperwork to the National League. The Punjab Warriors, there needs to be questions in regards to their takeover bid and the process, and have they actually completed all the paperwork? Do they actually have the funds behind them? Are they legitimate? All this kind of stuff. And this Johnny Cato, if the club has been sold, where's he come from? So what does this all mean? Well, I'm going to take you back in time to 2019 and what happened with Bury. Oh my God, the parallels with Bury are striking. And not only did Bury go out of business, but a lot of fans, not just Bury fans, but a lot of fans took aim at the Football League over their handling of the situation, the director's test, or what we commonly call the fit and proper persons test, which has never been fit for purpose and is regularly criticised because so many bad actors have bought football clubs who shouldn't buy football clubs. We saw it with Bury, and we're seeing it in other sports and other leagues as well, but we'll go with we'll stick with football here. Now, because of this suspension, these fixtures need to be played at a date, should the suspension be lifted. But if the suspension is extended into the season, that's more fixtures that get added to the postponement list, which is troubling. But if we go back to 2019 and Bury, and I will keep going back here, the Accrington chairman came out and said, because Bury are being suspended, potentially going out of business, that's cost us $250,000 in lost revenue. Now, Accrington are famous for being one of the clubs that operates with one of the smallest budgets in the Football League. Famous. When he came out and said that's just cost us £250,000 in lost revenue on a club that basically operates on a shoestring, can you imagine how devastating Morecambe going out of business is going to be for some National League clubs? It is going to be financially devastating, because they lose a minimum of 2 fixtures a season. That's not including this League Cup where Morecambe have been thrown out of the competition. This does not include the FA Cup, which is always a cash cow, should they be drawn against any club in the footballing pyramid. Yes, Morecambe, in theory, could be drawn against a club in the non-league further down. For them, that's a big, it's a former Football League club. We can earn some good revenue down a cup run. Morecambe, in theory, could be drawn against a Premier League club should they make it to the third round. Again, a big cash, big influx of revenue for ticket sales and TV and all this. And so this suspension has a knock-on impact for the rest of the footballing pyramid. We have seen the failures of the director's test, as the footballing authorities like to call it, but we as fans call it the fit and proper persons test, which is unfit and improper. And I've been highly critical of this for donkeys. What also I find very interesting, not just the parallels with Bury going out of business in 2019, which I hope doesn't happen here, but is looking more and more likely with the delays to submitting paperwork and meeting deadlines, is the Newcastle United takeover process. Mike Ashley put the club up for sale in 2016 privately, but it became public in 2017. He was selling Newcastle United. How many bids collapsed at the 11th hour? Amanda Staveley had 3 bids. In the end, her third bid gets over the line, and then the Premier League tried to block it. So I am seeing a lot of parallels with other clubs higher up the footballing pyramid in the past. Newcastle United being a prime example of a messy takeover process. Everton being another one with 777 partners and how that process was an absolute shambles. Look what's happening at Sheffield Wednesday. There's uncertainty over Sheffield Wednesday. There's concerns that their owner's a crook, quite literally. Look what's happened recently at Reading with Dai Young. And what I believe is criminality. Absolute criminality. So what's happening here, well, Morecambe is a much smaller club by comparison to all the other aforementioned clubs historically. And, they've spent a lot of their existence as a non-league club, but in more recent years they've been a Football League club. Is a lot of questions need to be asked of the Football League and the Premier League, and in regards to how they set up their ownership criteria. Because Dai Young, he somehow managed to buy Reading all those years ago, was blocked from buying Hull City because he didn't pass the director's test. He was told he was unfit to be an owner. The following year, the Football League passed him fit to be an owner. But now we've got to ask questions over the current owner, Jason Whittingham, and the people he's negotiating with to sell the club to, the Punjab Warriors. Are they fit and proper to be owners as an ownership consortium, as a group? But also, who is this Johnny Cato? Where's he come from? If this deal is over the line, why has another interested party come along to go by the club? Does he know something we don't? How transparent has the Football League been when, obviously, this sale process started when they were a Football League club? And why the National League decided right now, right on the cusp of the season starting, to go, we're going to suspend this club. Yes, deadlines have been missed for paperwork over finances, who owns the club, sale, all this kind of stuff that the National League have put in place. But questions do need to be asked of the footballing authorities. I'm not blaming the National League for taking action, whether we like it or not. This is their rules that they've had in place for a long time, and Morecambe as a club and the ownership and the potential ownership have breached those rules. But it's the timing of it. If they had concerns, shouldn't they have suspended or removed Morecambe from the league earlier for breaking the rules when it was the off-season, to again give them time to sort out a replacement club to keep it a 24-team league, rather than suspend this club and then 23 clubs can start the season? That means Boston United are going to have a week off, and then Brackley Town are going to have a week off, and then Scunthorpe United are going to have a week off. But there's running costs to a club, and if you are not getting fans in the turnstiles and playing, you're not earning any bloody revenue unless you're just selling merchandise to fans. So if you're not playing while everyone else is, you're losing revenue. You've got to pay bills, but you're not earning anything to cover the bills you've got to pay, like wages and stadium bills, training ground costs. So this does have a knock-on impact. And if they do go out of business, that hurts the rest of the National League clubs. It hurts the rest of the footballing pyramid. Because there's transfers, transfer fees, which normally get paid in instalments. If Morecambe go bust, what happens to those transfer fees that are paid in instalments that they owe money on? Because that will hurt other clubs. We saw this with Barcelona not paying Bordeaux in a timely fashion for a transfer that led to Bordeaux in France going into administration and therefore being kicked out of the French top flight. We've seen it with Lyon. We've seen it with Brescia have gone out of business in Italy. So big clubs, historical clubs that have been successful, winning trophies at the highest level in the top leagues across Europe, are going bust in the last 12 months. Something has gone very wrong here. Very wrong. And we shall see what happens on August the 20th when the National League reconvene and on their board reconvene, their executive reconvene. Will the suspension be extended? Will the Punjab Warriors get their paperwork in on time? Or Johnny Cato get his paperwork in on time? Or will Jason Whittingham decide, I'm going to drop the sale, I'm going to continue to run the club? Will the club be financially solvent? Will they have enough money to pay the players and non-playing staff? There's a lot of unanswered questions here, but this is very troubling, and I'm seeing a lot of parallels with the Bury situation, when Bury ultimately went bust. And I'm also seeing a lot of parallels with the Newcastle United protracted sale, and Everton to a certain extent, protracted sale processes where bids did collapse, and there was uncertainty about how long is the current owner going to keep running the club and who's actually going to buy the club, and a lot of uncertainty. And we've also seen other examples like Reading and Sheffield Wednesday where owners who shouldn't own clubs have been allowed to own clubs when they shouldn't be, and I'm seeing a lot of worrying trends that are continuing every season, and the footballing authorities are weak. It's weak governance, it's poor governance. Fans deserve better across the board. Football clubs deserve better, communities deserve better, and quite frankly I think the whole ecosystem is broken. We know this. And I can see bigger clubs ending up like Morecambe. I really can. We almost lost Reading this season. We could lose Sheffield United this season with their ongoing ownership problems. So this is not just a Morecambe problem. It's not just a National League problem. This is a footballing problem. We've seen Brescia in Italy go completely bust. We've seen Lyon get thrown out of the French top flight. We've seen Bordeaux get thrown out of the top two divisions of French football. This is an ongoing issue, and FIFA, UEFA, and then the domestic leagues are all failing massively. But that's my view on things. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section. But I want to hear from Morecambe fans. You'll obviously know a lot more about the situation than I do. I'm just picking information out, and I'm hearing this, and I'm concerned about the long-term viability, not only of this club but a lot of clubs. And we've been here before and we've learnt nothing. But thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below. I'll have some more content for you all very, very soon.